Come seeker, come traveler, come all humankind, online or in person, whomever you love.
Come. Come and be welcome at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Cheyenne. Here, we are building a community of refuge where all have equal worth and are invited into spiritual exploration as a foundation for hope and compassionate service and action.
This is a place where questions are encouraged, a place with room for all of who you are.
This is a place full of works in progress, a place for being human together.
Welcome. It is good to be here.
Settle in and exhale. This is a time for community.
Good morning. I'm Mike Lammers. I'm a member of the Committee on Shared Ministry, and I'd like to welcome you to this church where we are on a shared journey to find meaning, connection, and community together. If you're new to us, please fill out a blue visitor's card and drop it in the offering basket so that we can share information about our activities and help you find what nourishes your spirit here. You'll also find note cards in your pew for writing down joys and sorrows to add to our pastoral prayer. We pass an additional basket alongside the offering to gather these. Write your name or leave your joy or sorrow anonymous. You can also write "do not share" if you need to share with the minister, but do not want it spoken aloud. And we have many activities and events happening each week in the congregation and community. And let me tell you of a few of those coming up. Of course, after church today, first Sunday of the month, is Potluck Sunday. So stay around for that to enjoy some good food. We had a wonderful night last night at the church auction. It was very well attended. And I understand we did very well financially for that. So you'll be hearing more about the results of that, so yay for that. Future announcements coming up. Next Sunday, April 14th, after church, we'll be having our second planning meeting, brainstorming meeting for the church, talking about things that have been happening in the past and planning ahead for new things as we move forward as a church together. So don't forget that next Sunday after church on the 14th. On the 28th of April, which is 2 weeks beyond that, we're having a community fair here at the church. It'll be in the social hall after church. This is going to be an opportunity, especially for new folks or visitors, to come around and see what our committees do, what our groups do, and where you might possibly be able to use your talents and connect with the church as a volunteer in the future. So that'll be on April 28th. You'll be hearing more about that as time goes on. By the way, Friday of this week is Family Fun Night again, and I believe we're going to have a movie of some kind. Come and see what it is. I don't know the title, but it'll be a surprise. And there'll be some snacks and all that too. So that's this Friday. Don't forget that. And one last announcement, just for long-term ahead, and we'll be hearing more about that. May 19th will be the congregational meeting, the annual meeting. So just kind of let you know ahead of time for that. If anybody else have any announcements that I missed? All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as we gather in person and on Zoom each week, here we also gather our resources to sustain the work of this church and to share our abundance with community organizations, broadening the reach of our values. You can find a text to give number in your order of service or use your Realm app for electronic giving. You can also place Share the Plate offerings and pledges in the baskets as they pass in just a few moments. Our Share the Plate partner for April is Bethel Ministries, and I believe we have a Share the Plate volunteer who will tell us a bit about Bethel Ministries. Is that true? Fabulous. Thank you so much. So welcome Janet, who will tell you a bit about their mission.
'87 to help men and women who have recently been released from prison or jail to reintegrate into the community. It is a group of volunteers. It's funded by United Way and individual donations. I donate to it because I think that it's an organization that has a harder time raising funds than the animal shelter or the Boys and Girls Club. And my donation dollars are slim. I try to put them where they can do the most good. This is a group of men and women who have been arrested and have been in jail. And when you're arrested, they don't give you time to pack up your boxes and get your toothpaste and get your driver's license, or you just go. And when you're released from prison, most of those items have disappeared. People come out of prison without a driver's license, with no ID card, with no winter coat. This group helps them to do what seems like very simple things. Go get a driver's license, but you need money for it. You need someone to give you a ride to get it. And they're very careful with their money. I have a list of some of the things that they provided in the last month. And see if I can find it here. So, a bicycle and a lock, a rent deposit of $100, a bike and a lock, 2 more, a cell phone and a card, work boots, that's a common one, work clothes, cell phone and card, rent for $237.50, work boots and clothes, 2 tires, a Wyoming state ID, a car battery, 2 tires, a food card, a school registration fee, and some rents that are very reasonable. A rent deposit, $100. There is criteria to get this help, and it's pretty stringent. You must have been released from incarceration within the last 6 months. You stay in incarceration 2 months or more. You have received no help from us in the last month. You must attend all meetings you have been ordered to, AA, whatever. You must be willing to accept any job you can get. labor-ready, fast food, etc. You must sign a contract stating that you have received help from Bethel and will try to pay us back. So they aren't providing long-term care, but they are helping with mentoring. They put them in touch with other groups for counseling. They help them write resumes. They give them transportation to get to where they need to be. And it's all made up of volunteers. I'm not one, but I do know 2 people who you will meet that are very dedicated to helping these people start a new life and overcome the impossible obstacles. You can't be picked up at Labor Ready if you don't have work boots with steel toes. And they are expensive, so donate them if you have them. If they're used, they don't care. So I hope you'll see it in your hearts to help these people that need a fresh start, and sometimes it just takes so little for them to get on their feet. Thank you.
There are 100 billion snowflakes swirling in the cosmic storm, and each one is a galaxy, a billion stars or more. And each star is a million Earths, a giant fiery sun, high up in some sky, maybe shining on someone. Deep inside a snowflake, I am floating quietly. I am infinitesimal, impossible to see. Sitting in my tiny kitchen, in my tiny home, staring out my window at a universe of snow. But my soul is so much bigger than the very tiny me. Reaches out into the snowstorm like a net into the sea. Out to all the lovely places where my body cannot go. I touch that beauty and embrace it in the bosom of my soul. And so brief and fleeting is this tiny life of mine, like a single quarter note in the march of time. But my soul is like the music, it goes back to ancient days, back before it wore a human face, long before it bore my name. 'Cause my soul is so much older than the evanescent me. It can describe the dawn of time like a childhood memory. It is a spark that was begotten of the darkness long ago. what my body has forgot, I remember in my soul.
Deep gratitude, we receive our offering for the work of this congregation and the wider community. Love is hard. Love for people, especially those who are different from you. Love that says, I see you as a person. Love that says, let your unique light shine in the world, because each of our souls touches the divine mystery. Love that says, we're on a journey together, and my fate is tied up with yours. Love that grabs you and won't let go until your whole life is dedicated to siding with love. Love that changes the world. Love is hard. Do it anyway. And in service of that love, let us join together in our common worship. So for our opening hymn, let us lean into the joyful side of love with our hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. This is a happy, peppy song, and it's a short one. So if you know it, feel free to put down your hymnals and dance, clap, sway along with the music. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Open, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Thank you, and an especial thank you to those who got their move and groove on with us. And I believe we have a chalice lighter who's going to help me up here.
A writer from This Day in Recovery, a Unitarian Universalist compilation of writings by people affected by addictions to alcohol or narcotics, writes, Unitarian Universalism is a faith focused on love, but it often feels easier to extend that love to others than to ourselves. With love at the center of our Universalist heritage, it is a wonder that so many of us think of ourselves as unworthy of love. This love is for everyone, including us. For those of us who grew up in homes with addiction and dysfunction, it was so hard to know we were loved. Our parents struggled to show their love, and truthfully, were incapable of giving us love at many points in our lives. Growing up in this environment, we internalized that our lives did not matter and that we were inherently flawed. Our call is to keep love at the center of our lives by acting compassionately toward ourselves and others. Our call is to consider our actions with a forgiving spirit, even and especially those that we cannot seem to shake or to forget. This is hard work. We cannot undo a lifetime's worth of messages in a few days, but we can begin with forgiving ourselves. We can take that deep breath and remind ourselves that we are beloved one day at a time. For all who struggle with self-love, all whose lives have been touched by addiction or by dysfunction, whether in a family home or with a friend, perhaps yourself or a partner, however we find ourselves touched by messages that make loving ourselves difficult, may we light this chalice today to renew our own light and reflect that spark within that tells us we are holy. If the young or the young at heart would like to join me on the chancel at this time, we invite you to share in the leadership of speaking our covenant in unison before our time for all ages. I was gonna say it, maybe you.
Anybody else feeling brave? Yeah, you feel very brave, but I don't think you can walk by yourself yet. Is this microphone working? Fabulous. Yes, now I can hear me as well. All right, I thought Jenkin might like this story because it's a story about children and it's a story about mud. You think Jenkin might like mud? It's possible. So, a long time ago, there was a famous Universalist preacher named Hosea Ballou. But before he was a famous Universalist preacher, Hosea Ballou was, even before that, he was a kid. Yeah. So, like any of us, Hosea started out as a baby, and then he grew and he became a kid. And the thing that Hosea loved most of all at that age was not God or philosophy or universalism. Hosea loved mud. He loved mud season. And so in the springtime, when the mud was soft and squishy, or perhaps wet and splashy, or perhaps thick and gooey and good for making mud pies and castles, Hosea would go out and get very, very muddy. Jenkins is super into this story. He loved to splash in puddles. He loved to take off his shoes and squish that mud between his toes, and then put his socks and shoes back on and walk on home like nothing had happened. And it may surprise you to find out that his parents did not love mud, especially not sneaky mud on the inside of his socks. Bits of mud splashed on everyone else. And so, his father said, Hosea, you should not play in mud. And the next day, when Hosea came home muddy yet again, his father yelled, Hosea, I need you to stop playing in mud. And the day after, when Hosea came home muddy again, his father became very, very angry, told him to go to his room. And Hosea went to his room. And because he was a deep thinking child, Hosea thought and worried. And he came back to his father after perhaps 20 minutes or an hour. And he asked, Father, do you still love me? What do you think his father said? Yes, of course. Even when I'm really muddy. Yes, of course, his father said. Even when I'm angry with you for making so much laundry, I still love you. I will always love you. But, he said, I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little upset. But I will always, always love you. And Hosea said, I understand. And after thinking about it for a while, Hosea realized it wasn't really fair to the whole family. Because I don't know if you knew, but in the 1800s, washing machines were not a thing. You had to wash all your clothes by hand. So Hosea realized that he was creating a lot of extra work for the family when he got so muddy, and especially when he hid the mud inside of his socks or his clothes. And so he said, I will try. I will try not to get so muddy because I love you too. I'll try to take off my aviator helmet before splashing in the mud, says Jenkins. But as Hosea grew and grew, he continued to think about that time when he was so muddy and his father was so angry, and yet he was still loved. And as he grew up and he thought more and more about God and theology and philosophy, Hosea decided he couldn't believe in a God who would cease to love God's own creation, who would punish people forever, who would create a world in which, when human beings made mistakes or made choices that got them all muddy, really or metaphorically, that God would punish those people forever and ever. It didn't feel like a loving thing to do. And so, as Hosea grew up and became a man, he preached a gospel of universalism, that all people would be fully loved every day of their life, and that knowing they were loved and loving in return, they might try to be a little less muddy, to make a little less work for God or their parents. But they would know that no matter what, they were always loved. And that is our story for today. And thank you for helping me with it. Thank you, Jenkin, as well. And now, I hope he's all clean. Now we will head to our seats and ready ourselves for our prayer. It's muted, so it won't click. So now, if you'll take a breath and know that you are loved as we join in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, spirit of love, spirit of possibility and of creation. We gather each week, gather to be with one another, hoping to support one another and be a comfort in the hard times, to celebrate our joys and excitements with one another, to dwell together in the wonder and the mystery of this magnificent and ever-changing life. Today, we hold in gratitude this community, its generosity, its sense of communal joy and fun, the ways in which we give and receive from one another, as we give gratitude for all those who worked on making our church auction possible, all those who came and shared in the fellowship of a night together. We hold in our hearts Larry Lucas, a friend of one of our members who is from East Texas. Larry had a severe stroke on Sunday. He is in the hospital and could use your healing wishes, your prayers. As high winds continue, as the weather continues to be changeable, we ask that you hold in your hearts and your prayers the safety of those who commute long distances, for truck drivers, some of whom had blowovers last night. We know that so many people work to make it possible for us to have food and goods from far away. and that their contributions are not without their dangers. May we hold them in our hearts. Farther away in the world, we continue to hold in prayer all those in places of conflict and war, those who hunger, those who need human help to survive. May generosity and goodwill extend so far across the world. May peace prevail upon this earth. May we find joy in the presence of the young and the elders among us, the lifespan of all community. And know that in this growing and planting time of the year, we too are called to growth. So may we give thanks for the ever-changing earth, which reminds us the seasons of our lives, and hold room in our hearts for the joys yet unshared, sorrows too tender to be spoken aloud. May they too find peace, comfort, and community which enfolds us here. Amen, and blessed be.
Our centering reading this morning is entitled Worthy of Love by Rebecca Savage. Die before you die. This is regarded by Sufis as a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad. When I first heard of this spiritual teaching from the Sufis, I was miffed. What sense did that make? Die before you die. I thought about all of the suffering in the world, a teaching that emphasized more of the loss and grief of death just didn't make sense. Then I fell in love with someone who made the world come alive. They brought magic and wonder to the way I beheld the world. I believed in myself and the infinite possibilities of a transformative love. They sent me flowers, wrote love poems, and showered me with words of affirmation and adoration. I was so far gone for them, far, far out there in love. Die before you die. What died first was the crumbling of the fantasy they projected into the world of what we could be as a family. Die before you die. What died next was their word, their integrity, their cherishing of us. Die before you die. What died next was their respect for my body, for my voice, for my words of patience and acceptance. Die before you die. What died next was a layer of my own self-respect and a portion of my heart. I died again and again over the course of that relationship. Little deaths that coated my skin like a burnt coating, a layer of a previous life and dreams, encrusted and enfolded my heart. Have you ever watched traditional pottery come out of a fire? The clay shape emerges from the flames, buried in burning wood and ash. And the potter has to cool and rub the clay form so that the beauty can emerge. What cooled and rubbed away the burnt coating around my heart was the hard work of spiritual self-reflection and good old-fashioned love and acceptance from cherished friends. Die before you die. What also had to die was my shame, my belief that I was not worthy of such love. These deaths are each precious to me as gifts along the journey, not towards a great love with someone else, but a greater love within myself as a creation of God, worthy of these gifts. Great mystery of divine love and compassion, bringer of death and transformation, inspire in me a greater strength and vulnerability to love and be loved, with each salutation to the rising sun and with each quiet breath of gratitude at the end of the day.
Don't you feel the love is all around, in the sky and in the ground, in every single living thing, and in the song that I'm singing. There are children in the streets that have nothing to eat, yet their hearts are full of love. They are beings from above. Love's everywhere you go. All you have to do is open up your soul. Feel the love inside you grow. And take every chance you get to spread the love everywhere. Can you feel it in the air? It's spreading everywhere. Can you feel the love inside? It's spreading worldwide. With every step you take, there's pleasure, there is pain. Every being everywhere. Feel the love you share. Feel the love we share. Let it grow everywhere.
We gonna take this magical feeling, spread it around from when the sun rises till the evening. Let it touch the heart of the soul that are grieving, 'cause we rising, without you we ain't leaving.
Love is a really special thing. Can't be replaced with anything, including diamond rings and rich, wealthy kings. The offspring of a butterfly feels the love once it flies. Doesn't matter what your size, you'll feel the love inside. Now there's a thing called hate, and that's a classified mistake. There's only room for love today, so forget all the pain. Can you feel the love inside? It is spreading worldwide. With every step you take, there is pleasure, there is pain. Every being everywhere. Can you feel the love you share? Or feel the love we share? Let it grow everywhere.
We spreading love one at a time, one at a time. Doesn't matter your race, color, or size. All I know is that when I look into your eyes, love is all I wanna spread. I realize I love you. I say that truly from my heart, 'cause I know if I don't start now, who knows when we'll depart. I have faith that our love creates a spark that starts a flame that will erase all the dark, yeah. Imagine that, dark turning to light, just cause one of our hearts loosened up from its tight grip. So it touched the next with all its joy and brightness. And that's the story of how we ended this crisis.
Can you feel the love inside? It is spreading worldwide. With every step you take, there's pleasure, there is pain. Every being, everywhere. Can you feel the love we share? Feel the love we share. Let it grow everywhere. Can you feel the love inside? It's spreading worldwide. With every step you take, there's pleasure, there is pain. Every being, everywhere. Can you feel the love we share? Feel the love we share. Let it grow everywhere.
And as we begin, let's just take a moment of gratitude for our delightful church administrator because you almost got to hear an extemporaneous sermon. I realized we had printed early and not printed my sermon as part of the script. So now I do have a sermon. Thank you. So we've been hearing love is hard, love is wonderful. Self-love can be a stretch. Love can be delightful. There is joy in love. And all these things are true. As we move into this month, looking at desire and abundance, at want and need, and enough and sufficiency, we'll be looking at both of these sides of love. And so, I want to start by just saying, hello, I'm Reverend Elizabeth, and I am a romance novel addict. It's true, no joke. I really love the formula of books that guarantee a happily ever after. Being a minister, having been a community organizer in some of the sacrifice zones of our nation and our world, in Appalachia, in Guatemala, I've seen the hard parts of life. I see when things are difficult so often. What I need to imagine and come back to again and again, what I love being reminded of, is that there are good people in this world. On the pages of a romance novel, by like page 3, you know there are at least 2 really lovely people. And by the end of that book, they're going to be in love. They're going to have a life that works out, even if on the way they fall through a crack in time and have to run away from the British across Scotland, or some of you have read that book, yes? Or if they're trying to save their failing 1800s bakery business with one cake for the lord of the manor while trying not to fall in love with the sous chef. Or whatever it may be, whatever contrived or realistic challenges there are, that people who find love have more support, are better off, are doing okay. And by the end of a romance novel, you know that they've done all right. Because what they want most, love and reciprocity, has been found. I love that imagination of the world. I love being reminded, because when I look out at a congregation, this one or any congregation, while there are people in difficulty, there are so many people with love in their lives, finding community and support, friendship or family, chosen or given. And that is why we come to church. Not to find one sexy man, perhaps a firefighter, whose shirt is inexplicably partly off even though he's at work, but to find people who are loving. Beyond sexual desire or their survival instinct, there's a deeper desire. And that is in our ability to dream, our ability to imagine, our wants, our beliefs that we can have a life that is mostly good most of the time. For me, it's romance novels that give me that space for dreaming of all the ways that humans can find satisfaction in their lives. But wherever you find it, it's important that we start to dream and imagine and believe in what supportive relationships can look like. Because there are far too many examples from life, from fiction, from the world, of the ways in which we can find twisted versions of love, the ways in which we accept imbalance or even abuse, jealousy, anger as a part of just how people relate to one another, normal relationship constructions. Here, we can build something better. And in our lives, with enough examples of what it looks like to feel good and be supported in a team of problem solvers. When we look back to sacred stories, from things like the biblical story of Mary and Martha, telling women, perhaps you don't always need to be the one tending the fires, doing the dishes, making sure all of the household things get done. Perhaps the better part is to sit and be part of the discussion, to ask everyone to pitch in. We have other stories. But last week was Easter, and we are reminded every Easter of a story that is often framed as a desirable sacrifice, as the atonement for the world, born through suffering, necessary and at the hands of what is said to be a loving and parental figure of God. I don't believe that, and I hope you won't either. The story of sacrificial atonement asks us to believe that pain should be part of a loving, caring relationship, that it's wanted by someone who is supposed to love you. And this sets us up to normalize abusive patterns, to allow people, especially people who have been socialized as women, to believe that their suffering is an offering to God in so many communities. It's not always an abuse cycle, but there is so much that we are socialized to believe are just the extra tasks of being female. Women lose years off of their lives when they are in a relationship, while men literally live longer by being married, statistically. We have set up systems in which women so often are going to work outside of the home and coming home to work inside of the home, while men don't feel that same pressure of expectation. Leave it for tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be fine. I remember a joke that I was told by one of our congregants not too long ago, that a man and his wife were hanging out at home, and she was trying to clean, and he said, "Honey, you don't need to. Do what I do. I know you're not going to believe this, but I just put things on the magic table." We have one in the middle of our living room. Everything I put on that table disappears every night. It's clean and back in its place in the morning. You have no idea. It's wonderful. And she is so mad she can't even speak. They go to bed. The next morning, he wakes up, and his wife is gone. Well, he calls the police. He doesn't know what's happened. 2 officers come. They look around. No one can figure out what's happened to his wife. He goes, "Officers, you're not going to believe this, but I think what might have happened, maybe she got up in the middle of the night and tripped and fell into our magic table." One of the officers says, "That's stupid." The other officer goes, No, wait. I have one of those tables at my house. It's real." There are ways in which we are socialized to believe that it can be just one partner's issue. The other partner gets to magically let that table clean up for them. But we know there's a responsibility and awareness happening in that joke. It's a funny joke, but there's a piece in there that's real. That's us needing to realign our expectations, our responsibilities, our awareness of what being in love and giving back in love means. Evening out those responsibilities, there's no inevitability about marriage leading to greater or lesser lifespans. That's a social set of tasks that are being unequally split. But what if we believe, what if we imagine the romance novel versions of the world, in which partners are supportive, in which you tell them what's wrong and people make changes to make a relationship work, in that larger scope of desiring a happy ever after for every person, believing in love and the magic of relationships? What if? What if here at church you deepen into conversation over coffee? What if you find spiritual insight with someone and invite them to form a small group with you, to have dinner occasionally, to talk and reflect? What if you just enjoy each other's company and trust that together we'll all take part in making sure the dishes get washed and the tables are put away, and that there's space enough, like Mary and Martha, to sit down and have the conversations you need to have when they are fresh, when wisdom and insight appear, because someone else will help. Today, we look to possibility in the boundless love of the universe. We look to loving ourselves enough to let our light shine. We trust in the chance meetings and the moments where paths cross at just the right moment in life, not only in fiction. We look to making space for our wants, our needs, to being a part of giving back in love, knowing that it is our common responsibility to one another. So let us imagine the good parts of this loving world, where our safety and well-being matter, where we must know ourselves to be a loving miracle. And let the myths that bind us to unhealthy patterns die off. There is no magic table. We do for one another in love. Let that shedding help us find a new way to bud into green new growth, like leaves that are nearly ready to burst forth upon the trees. Each week, we finish our service by extinguishing our chalice flame, carrying it forth in our hearts. Today, I ask that you really feel that spark within you. Imagine it as the love at your center, and tend it with care for that fire within, that drive and desire. The dreams you carry, they are the spark of magic in the universe. And you deserve love and a happily ever after. So let us make it so in this community and in relationship together. Our final hymn is number 1014. It is in many of your teal hymnals as Standing on the Side of Love. If you have one that still says Standing on the Side of Love, can you grab your pencil? The hymn author has asked that we update that to Answering the Call of Love in an effort to be more loving and inclusive to people of all kinds of abilities. And then you can stand in body or in spirit, or remain seated yet answering the call of love in that way as well. And we'll sing together, Answering the Call, instead of standing on the side. Perfect, thank you. Looks good, thank you. All right. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. So tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling a vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame and speak together the words in our order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with our hearts until we are together again.
And so, as we go forth to our potluck, let this be a chance to share in love with one another, to be with each other, knowing that love propels us to generosity, to transformation, to deep conversations, and dear friends in gathered community. Blessed be.